a little silly to have a microphone in this room, but I'll go ahead. My name is Roseanne Smythe, and I'm privileged to be moderating this evening. Thank you all for coming. This is wonderful. You can't hear me, I need to be louder.
Keep talking to you,
Okay. We would like to thank the partners that made tonight possible, the Farm Bureau of Page County and the Alliance for the Shenandoah Valley. We also want to thank Colton Wolf with White Wolf Communication Group for organizing, for recording this evening's forum and donating his time. That's very special. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
And this way it's going to be possible for people who haven't been here. Okay, now I can hear you better. We'll make these recordings available online, so please, we don't want anybody to be recording with their cell phones. And speaking of cell phones, could you just take a minute to make sure that yours is on mute or even turned off? That would be great. The other thing I wanted to mention, the restroom that's available. I don't know who would want to go into this one, so I would recommend going around the corner to the two bathrooms that are outside in the entrance, not outside, but in the foyer. Okay, the ground rules for this evening. This forum is intended to be a civil, nonpartisan discussion of the issues. We ask everyone to be respectful of each other throughout the evening. All officially registered candidates were invited to participate, but some were not able to attend. I'll serve as the moderator, and I get to ask all the questions, which is my favorite thing to do anyway. All questions asked this evening were submitted by citizens who attended this forum. Partner volunteers reviewed the questions only to ensure they meet the criteria. No questions are eliminated unless they didn't meet the criteria, although we did have to limit the number of questions for our school board candidates since we only have one person up here. So to be kind, we're limiting that. So no questions were eliminated unless they didn't meet the criteria. There's a maximum of 150 characters, no candidate names, no attacks or accusatory questions. Your question must be in the form of a question, always a good idea. We've received many thoughtful questions this evening, and we're going to do our best to get through as many of them as possible. We're going to begin tonight with the school board candidate, and the format of this evening is going to be this. Each candidate is going to start with a 1-minute opening statement, and then we'll move into the question and answer session. I'll ask the questions, and each candidate will have the opportunity to respond. Each candidate will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer the question, and to help us stay on schedule, we have timers seated right here. A yellow card is going to be up after 1 minute has passed, and with 5 seconds remaining, the red card will be raised. There will be opportunity for follow-up. Candidates may ask for the opportunity for a one 30-second follow-up. At the end, we're going to finish with a 1-minute closing statement. The order of candidates was determined earlier by random drawing. We'll get into that later because with one school board candidate, we didn't have to worry about that. So right now, I am happy to introduce to you Mr. Painter. And Mr. Painter, you have 1 minute, a 1-minute opening statement.
Well, thank you for having this event. It's kind of neat to see this happen. I think we had one 2 years ago, but it wasn't with this group, so this is a new experience for me at least. And originally I had turned down the offer to come because I didn't have anybody run against me. And then I thought, well, I want to hear what the other folks say, so I'll be there. And then they're not here tonight, so that's all good. I'll hear what the supervisors have to say. I'm looking forward to that. My name is Duane Painter. I'm a District 4 right now, representative of the school board, and I've been in that office since 2019, so you can mark me safe as surviving the COVID years, which was interesting, to say the least. But we've done a lot of good things with our schools, and we feel good about it. I think we're heading in the right direction. We've got a new superintendent, and I'm looking forward to working with them. And the reason I ran, just so everybody knows, is I wanted continuity. Since 2019, I've worked with 3 different school board chairs, and we had 3 in 3 years, and that's not very good. So that's why I wanted to run. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Our first question this evening is, let's see, what is the most pressing issue facing public education in Page County?
Well, there's a lot of those. I think this family structure and the family dynamics that we have and some socioeconomic things are very challenging. We've done a good job with a lot of things, and the Board of Supervisors have helped us with paying teachers. We've got like 92% retention right now, so we feel good about that. And we're the highest ranked for SOL scores county in this local area. And we've improved about almost 40 spots in the nation out of 131 divisions. And one of the other things we have is we have schools that are very old, probably some of the oldest in the state. So we're going to have to address some of those things, which are large as well. So I think those two things are very, very key, and we just want to continue our learning as well.
Thank you. Our second question is, what plans do you have to recruit and retain qualified teachers in the county?
Yeah, so we've I think, like I said a while ago, we've done a good job with that. 92% retention is kind of unheard of. Stanley Elementary only had 2 teachers leave this year, and most other schools were the same way. So we're in a good spot. We just got to continue supporting teachers in their raises. I know the supervisor candidates are here. In 2019, when I went to the school board, or to the Board of Supervisors advocating for raises, I was sitting with Miss Weekly, who's at Page County Middle School, and she hadn't received a raise out of the 24 years. She only received a raise 8 times up until that point. And ever since then, we've given raises, and the supervisors have been very good with that, and I hope that continues. And I know that we got budget issues, but I think we've done fairly well with that. And we look forward. I think we got a good atmosphere. Our climate studies, we do a climate survey every year in each building, and we're finding out what we need to address. So we feel pretty good about it.
Thank you. And our third question is, what is the best way for the school board to work with the Board of Supervisors to improve student learning?
Yeah, so I think we've got a good relationship with the Board of Supervisors. It was very rocky at times, but we've met continuously with them. We do the budget process with them, and some of them can, Mr. Guzy could probably speak to that when he gets up here. I think we're going to continue to do that. I think Dr. Huber and the whole staff at the central office, some of them are going to the meetings now, so we're going to continue to do that and present things. And they've supported us along the way, so we very much appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Painter. You now have 1 minute to make a closing statement.
Okay. From the school perspective, we need our community support. We do have that. We have a lot of community activities that we're doing with our schools. And if anybody in here wants to be a mentor, to take a young person under their wing and kind of speak with them for 20 minutes every week, that's an opportunity you can take. We need those folks. And I really think we have some opportunities with our high-performing students as well to help other students as they learn. Because we got significant challenges coming up with the new requirements from the state. Basically, the SOL score for baseline is going to improve by 10%. So those scores are going to have to be higher to keep our record the way we've got it right now. And we have a good system. You can have trust in that. We got people that really care about it, the children, and I know all you guys do as well. So I want to just thank you for your support and whatever you can do. And come to some of our meetings. I love to hear some citizen comments every once in a while. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate you coming and answering the questions. That's wonderful. We're going to take a short break now and then get set up for our supervisor service. Thank you. Okay, thank you so much, gentlemen, for being here this evening. First, I would like to introduce Mr. Jerry Berner, Mr. Bucky Thomas, I don't have these in the right order, Mr. Keith Guzy, Mr. Michael Montgomery, and Mr. Jeff Baldwin. Thank you for coming. I'm sorry, Jeremy Baldwin. What we're going to do is the same that we did before, which is each person is going to have a 1-minute opening statement. So we're going to start, Mr. Thomas, with you.
Ready? Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here and your civic interest in the upcoming elections. I'd first like to thank the Alliance for the Shenandoah Valley and Farm Bureau for putting on the event. My name is Bucky Thomas. I am a lifelong resident here, born and raised in Page County, graduated Luray High School, went on to James Madison University, where I received a Bachelor in Business Administration, and was fortunate enough to get a job here in the Valley. Went to work for Wrangler Jeans back in the day, VF Jeanswear. Spent 13 years there. Moved over to work for Cisco Foods down in Front Royal, Virginia for another 15 years. And now I'm fortunate enough to be back in the Valley, back in Page County, working again. I am the director for the Contour Brands Wrangler DC. I'm back at home at Wrangler. Easiest way to summarize myself, I've shared this with others along the way. The motto I live by is God, family, and country. I serve God first and foremost. That is the most important thing in my life. My family, that's the center of my life. Everything I do is for my family. And country, that kind of brings me here. I'm new to politics. Never saw myself running for politics. But I have time now, and I want to devote time to the county. The only reason I'm running is simply to serve Page County. Thank you.
My name is Jerry Berner, and like Mr. Thomas, I'm also a lifelong resident of Page County. I graduated from Luray High School in 2002. I then went on to Virginia Tech, where I earned a dual bachelor's in both animal and poultry science and agricultural and applied economics. While I was there, I said, let's just stay a few more years. I decided to go ahead and get my master's in agricultural and applied economics. Ever since then, I returned home. I own and operate Trio Farms alongside my dad and granddad. And then when I met my wife, Holly, we ended up starting Berner's Beef, a direct marketing beef company that the both of us co-own together. A little bit of my past experiences, I was previously appointed by the governor to serve on the Virginia Cattle Industry Board, which is the tax. There was a tax on the cattle, and basically that board was tasked with handing that money out, budgeting it, and make sure we didn't run out on it. I've also served locally, Luray Page Chamber of Commerce. I was their chairman for 2 years and served on that board for a couple years. Here recently, since 2019, I've been on the Planning Commission and served as the chairman for the last 4. So, the reason I'm running for the Board of Supervisors is I feel like the county's kind of at a crossroads. We're constantly getting inundated with questions about development, business growth. How do we preserve ag space, open space? And I just feel like, I want to be a part of that conversation and help the county move forward the best it can.
My name is Keith Guzy. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I'm your current Board of One's board of District 1 supervisor. My wife and I graduated from Mount Carmel. I married my high school sweetheart after I graduated from Bridgewater and she graduated from JMU. Came back to the area, we bought a house, and we raised a family. So I have a wonderful daughter, Mercedes, that is graduated from Liberty University, and she's a second year with working in the schools as a school counselor at the elementary school there in Shenandoah. My middle son, Tanner, he is 19, and he's at Laurel Ridge and figuring out what he wants to do, like a lot of us did. And my youngest son is a junior at Gray High School and very active in sports. So as long as we've been in Page County, I've always had to go back and forth and work in Northern Virginia. And now I'm a national sales rep selling in the telecom industry. So a lot of the cell phone towers that build across the U.S., that's what I do. I work with those to sell that and provide those items. 12 years ago, going back and forth to Northern Virginia, I realized that I didn't like the way that the county was going. It didn't look like the place I wanted to raise my family, so I got involved. And since then, I've been a board of supervisor and trying to be involved in the county.
Hello, Michael Montgomery. I'm running for District 1 Board of Supervisors. I also graduated from Luray High School. After that, I went into the United States Air Force, so I'm a veteran of the Air Force. After I served my tour in the Air Force, I came home, worked on Shenandoah National Park, different jobs like that, and then I finally settled where I'm working at a manufacturing facility in the Valley, and I'm currently the manufacturing manager for that facility. The main reason I'm running, not the main, but one of the main reasons I'm running, I got tired of sitting on the couch, looking at stuff being done, not caring for what's being done, and just complaining about it. So I thought it was time. My job that I have now, it affords me the time to be able to serve the county, serve my community, try to make a difference in the community, and really be a voice for the people of District 1. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeremy Baldwin. Thank y'all for coming tonight. I'm running for your District 1 Board of Supervisors Republican candidate here. And like everybody else has said, lifelong resident of Page County, born and raised, graduated from Luray High School, class of 2001. Main reason I'm running is because we own several businesses in the county. We're invested in the county. I've never held a public job. I've always worked for myself ever since I graduated high school. Started out on the farm. That's where I got my start, and then we started several other businesses and owned several properties and managed several businesses that we have in the county. That's the main reason why I'm running, is to protect Page County's heritage of being a farming community and see if what we can do to preserve the farmland. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, what we're going to do now is start with our first question, and the first question is going to go to Mr. Thomas. Mr. Thomas, everyone's for economic development, bringing new jobs to the county. Lack of affordable housing can be a deterrent to that economic growth. Here's the question. What should the county do to ensure sufficient affordable housing for current and new residents? One question. The other one, same question, but wondering about young people and seniors. So that's a pretty broad range. So basically, affordable housing sounds like for everybody.
Yes, affordable housing is an issue, not just here in Page County, but pretty much statewide, nationwide. As inflation has increased, housing costs have skyrocketed, making it difficult for families to not only buy houses, but simply buy groceries and normal bills. To help affordable housing, it starts with our planning, and I appreciate the work Mr. Berner and the Planning Commission has done to set up a good foundation for our planning districts. The short-term rental market has put pressure on housing costs here in the county. It is an important industry for Page County. It's a lot of money, a lot of tax revenue for the county, but it does put pressure on affordable housing. So I think it's going to be critical that we maintain our planning districts and have areas of short-term rentals, as well as a more dense population towards the towns, that we can focus on affordable housing. How the county can help do that, obviously I'm being a Republican, being a conservative, I'm not a fan of, government intervention in private industry. I wouldn't see the county being in any advantage for us to get into the building industry, but we should be able to work with developers to find properties and make sure they're zoned and, the housing, make it as affordable as possible by taking advantage of smaller properties, probably more closely centralized in the town areas where we have municipal water and sewer and roads already set up. Thank you.
Mr. Berner, I'm going to repeat the question for you. What should our county do to ensure sufficient affordable housing for current and new residents and aging and young families?
So the issue of affordable housing, it's kind of a multi-problem issue. We think about affordability. I'll be the first to say affordable housing is not cheap housing. It's not a cardboard built on the side of the house. The affordable housing is kind of a budgetary issue when it comes to dealing with your family management and things like that. Where do we put our money? Are we paying groceries? Are we paying rent? Are we paying electric? Are we paying utilities? And as those costs skyrocket, that gives less money and opportunity for somebody to be able to compete and have and own their own home. Where we can help in the county is one of the things we do in our subdivision policy is that we have a top-down approach. So we break down to 25, you go to 12 and a half, 6 1/4, and then more than likely the lot size stops there. If you're trying to put an affordable house on a 6-acre lot, you've already gotten behind the 8 ball because you're paying for 5 acres or 4.5 acres of additional land that may not be necessary for somebody as a starter home or somebody as a senior who needs a yard with less maintenance. So I think, we need to take a look at our policies, make sure that our vision and policy is where it needs to be. We also need to make sure that we stick within our zones so that we have areas of residential development so that we can get infrastructure such as water, sewer, the utilities into it so that you can manage the overhead costs that are incorporated in that. When we start to stretch out that infrastructure over a farther period, the overall overhead cost goes directly to the bottom line in the family budget. So I know we only get a minute and a half here really to speak, but the affordable housing is a major issue, and I think those are two of the first things that need to be looked at and fixed.
Thank you, Mr. Berner. Mr. Guzy, I'll repeat the question. What should the county do to ensure sufficient affordable housing for current and new residents who are new families and seniors?
Well, we know it's a problem. We've several of the Board of Supervisors have been meeting with the different towns over the last several years, and I think you have to do affordable housing and multiple housing and high-density housing in the towns. Because in the towns, you have the infrastructures, right? You have your water, sewer, septic. You have the places where they can walk to shop, whether it be Walmart or Dollar General. They have, a lot of times, it may be a family with only one vehicle, so can they walk to the schools? Can they walk to the libraries? How do they get the services that they need? Can they be close to the hospital? Can they, the worst thing you could do, and Jared and I planning is, the worst thing Page County did is in the 1970s, they sent out a letter and they said, what do you want your land to be? And people responded, I want residential, I want ag, I want woodland conservation. That's not how it should have been done. But we're all here to try to fix things and slowly trying to. If we concentrate on the growth tiers in the towns and put the people, and we push the towns and we try to get the towns some support like grants, I think the growth tiers and that needs to be in the towns. Now, we've also had it where it's come to the towns and they voted it down. Not in my backyard. So we've got to try to get people to open up to be able to have the affordable housing, be able to have the senior living. That's where it's going to be. I think a few years ago, the state backed People Inc. and we had a wonderful neighborhood apartment buildings built out there near the airport, and it filled up immediately, and it's been a gem, right? It's a beautiful location, nice. If we can get more of that in the towns, that's what we're going to be. I certainly don't think the answer is to go out in the middle of the valley, in the middle of the ag land, and put a lot of houses. That's what we want to steer away from.
Thank you, Mr. Guzy. Mr. Montgomery, I'm going to repeat the question. What should the county do to ensure sufficient affordable housing for current and new residents who are new families and seniors?
Well, it's definitely, a pressing issue for the county. I can't say anything that these guys haven't said already. It's a multi-tiered approach you have to take to it. There's a lot of moving pieces that have to come in place for everybody to be happy and to come up with a common goal and a common decision on how to solve this problem. I think you need to be collaborative with the towns. They need to be in from the get-go. If the county's discussing stuff like that, the county shouldn't be making recommendations or coming up with a solution without involving them, especially if we're going to rely on them for their municipal water, power, different things like that, sewer. So I would say across the board, it's not just with the towns, but any of the commissions, committees, the EDA, whatever it is, there needs to be more collaboration, more meeting, everybody involved at the same time, not going to one committee versus the other, coming up with stuff like that, and get everybody in the same room together and find out what everybody really wants out of this and how we need to solve it as a group, because there's not one person or one group that can solve this on their own. Definitely want to look at maybe offering some, I don't know if we can offer some type of incentives for developers and stuff like that in those zones that are identified, but I think we need to look into that also.
Thank you, Mr. Montgomery. Mr. Baldwin, I'll repeat the question for you. What should the county do to ensure sufficient affordable housing for current and new residents who are new families and seniors?
I have to agree pretty much with what everything's been said already. I mean, affordable housing is a problem. I do not believe that you can solve it very fast. I believe that you'll have to work, like I say, affordable housing should be within the town limits because that's where it's going to make the most sense, not out in the country somewhere. You would have all your resources there and would be able to keep the building costs down for these structures. And then, like I say, you're just going to have to work together with the towns and within the county, board members and everybody, planning and zoning, to make this all happen. But I do not believe out in the county anywhere would be a good idea to try to do a development to create affordable housing. It would have to be within a locality of a town somewhere in Page County.
Thank you, Mr. Baldwin. I believe we have one more candidate. Ms. Kile. Let's go ahead and give her 1 minute to introduce herself. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for your patience with me this afternoon. I am a nurse by trade, so it was a long day at work. I am Susie Kile. I am the current District 4 supervisor on the Board of Supervisors. I was appointed in January, and there is the special election in November to fill out that term.
Great, Ms. Kile. The question that we have for you is, what should the county do to ensure sufficient affordable housing for current and new residents who are new families and seniors?
That is a great question, and I wish it could be solved in one single answer, which is unfortunately not the case. I think anything happens in any level of an organization, be it public sector, be it private sector, you have to establish relationships. Without good working relationships, nothing can move forward. Second to that, I think as a county, we've already had studies that have shown the need for affordable housing. And then just anecdotally, I think county residents understand that that is also that is also a need. So I think it just begins with the knowledge that it is a problem. We need to have the right people at the table, which is certainly going to be county leadership in terms of elected officials, also our county staff, and key members of the community.
You have 30 seconds left.
I didn't know what the yellow card was. Soccer and the red card. Okay, haven't got the red card yet. Okay.
We'll give you the remaining 30 seconds.
Okay, thank you for that. So that's a tough question, straight out of the gate, but understanding that it is a problem and everybody needs to come to the table to be able to provide a solution to it. There's also a component of jobs creation. People need to be able to afford the homes that they're living in. So affordable housing is a component to quality of life in general.
Thank you, Ms. Kile, appreciate it. Our second question, we're going to start with you, Mr. Berner. This question is, what is the most important responsibility the Board of Supervisors owes to the citizens and communities of Page, and how do you think you could contribute to help carry out that responsibility?
I mean, ultimately, it boils down to, the board's going to tell you that the budget is the biggest issue, but I'm going to go one step further and I say it's the factors that affect the budget. We can balance numbers all day long. That's just pluses and minuses. It's a simple equation. But understanding the factors that go into it, such as infrastructure costs, such as the cost of EMS, such as the cost of, your roads and the things like that. Understanding how balancing it with planning and development so that you can minimize those costs. Just having an overall nature of the entire way it works so that you can minimize any negative effects that it comes in as taxes and stuff via the budget, which is probably the main issue. How I think I can help that. Being on the planning commission, we've seen all the issues come at us. I came on when solar was there, so it was fire right at the gate, and we've seen a lot of issues over the years, and had to tackle the tough decisions by working with the communities. But in the end, it boils down to making the best decision for the citizens at home and trying to make sure that we minimize any costs and effects that happen to them.
Thank you, Mr. Berner. Mr. Guzy, I'll repeat the question. What is the most important responsibility the Board of Supervisors owes to the citizens and communities of Page County, and how do you think you could contribute to help carry out that responsibility?
Absolutely. I think the biggest and the number one thing that I do this with in the back of my mind is the quality of life for the citizens. The citizens come first, right? That's why we're elected. We're elected by the people, and we're here to serve the people. At the end of the day, we have to do everything in our powers to provide the services to the people, whether it be landfill, which we've recently been able to do free trash at the landfill for all the citizens, the sheriff's department, giving them the budget to be able to have the people on the road to keep our citizens safe, the schools, which years ago we had a huge problem with teacher retention, and we were able to give the raises to make our schools where they're at today. We certainly still have some 100-year-old schools, so we're not out of the woods yet. And then we also have outside things that come to our county that would be pressures on our citizens, like solar. And if you look back, I was the only Board of Supervisors at one point that was against solar. And we fought that until we actually got some combines and tractors in the parking lot and changed some people's minds that solar wasn't right for Page County. So in the last 12 years, I've done everything I can to make sure that we've been able to increase our services to our citizens. Our largest payroll in the county is the school systems, to be able to retain teachers. And at the end of the day, I've fought to keep taxes low. We've found other ways to do it. We've been able to put in the top tax, other taxes, where it did not impact our citizens. Our citizens are number one. And if you look back over the last 12 years, I've constantly tried to vote to make sure we either had flat or lower taxes. So if we can do that, we can keep our citizens happy. That's why we're here. It's for our citizens, not for anybody else.
Thank you, Mr. Guzy. Mr. Montgomery, the question. What is the most important responsibility the Board of Supervisors owes to the citizens and communities of Page, and how do you think you could contribute to help carry out that responsibility?
Yeah, so looking out for the citizens is the number one job. Taking care of their needs and interests. You're never going to please everybody, but you need to make the most informed decision based off of what you learn from the Planning Commission, the Tourism Committee, EDA, all those things, and make the most informed decision you can, because at the end of the day, it's not my money that I'm spending. Some of it is, but I want to treat it like I'm doing my own household income, be responsible about it. Everybody knows they have to balance their budget in their homes, and that's the type of approach we need to take at the county. It's not a free-for-all. We shouldn't be, frivolously spending money just because it's not coming out of our own pockets. So we really need to look at ways to be more efficient in the way we spend, keep taxes low, give people the most bang for their buck is the easiest way to say it. So just want to look out for that, be as careful as I can making decisions. And the way I make decisions is not for whether it's a person that is on a fixed income or somebody that has millions of dollars. I would want to look out for everybody and what's the best interest of everybody and how it affects the most people positively.
Thank you, Mr. Montgomery. Mr. Baldwin, what is the most important responsibility the Board of Supervisors owes to the citizens and communities of Page, and how do you think you could contribute to help carry out that responsibility?
I think the most important thing that the county owes to the citizens is the accountability and transparency of where their tax dollars actually go to and what's paid with that. Because, like I say, the citizens of Page County pay their hard-earned money to the county and are trusting the county to spend it wisely. I do believe that the county should also use what resources we do have within the county to generate the extra tax revenue that we can to be able to keep the tax base low for the residents of Page County, more so than catering to other people. Basically, just making sure we try to keep the taxes as low as we can for the current residents and future residents living in Page County is the most important thing we can do for our citizens in the county.
Thank you, Mr. Baldwin. Ms. Kile, the question is, what is the most important responsibility the Board of Supervisors owes to the citizens and communities of Page, and how do you think you could contribute to help carry out that responsibility? And you have 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Okay. So I think the overwhelming answer to that is that the actions that we take as individuals and the decisions that we make are accountable to the citizens. With that in mind, we have to be approachable and accessible and conduct ourselves with transparency and integrity. And that flows into everything else that we do. Secondary to that, I would add that fiscal responsibility and efficiency of government is one of the other things that we owe our citizens.
Thank you, Ms. Kile. Mr. Thomas, the question is, what is the most important responsibility the Board of Supervisors owes to the citizens and communities of Page, and how do you think you could contribute to help carry out that responsibility?
Thank you. So, as it stated, obviously the most important job of the Board of Supervisors is the citizens and the county itself. If elected, I go to work for you. I give you 100% to take care of you, the citizens of Page County, and our culture and our heritage here in our county. I think it's very important that we try to maintain who we are and what we are. Now, that's a lot said. The best approach, the easiest approach, I think, as stated from my peers, is fiscal responsibility. I really feel like that's what I bring to the board. I've got 35 years of business experience where I've been held tightly accountable to an operating budget. Managing 500, 600 people at times in different buildings, one here in Virginia and one in Florida at a point in my career, and being held accountable to every penny. I had to create budgets, multi-million-dollar budgets. I had to create capital budgets. I had to manage within those budgets, and at the end of the day, I was the one that was accountable to those budgets. I have to report back and show success on that, and I've had a very successful career doing that for multiple companies in the business world now. I want to bring that experience and that talent that I've learned in the business industry with those multi-million-dollar budgets, bring that back to Page County and help make Page County great.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Our third question is going to start with Mr. Guzy. Page County hasn't seen any significant growth in some time. What does good growth look like? And how will you protect our scenic beauty, farmland, and water quality with local economic needs?
Well, over the last several years, we've had a lot of discussions with the Planning Committee about being able to provide opportunity for pad-ready businesses. And businesses aren't going to relocate to Page County on an SUP. We've had that problem where we talked about a business zone, an overlay zone, a dual zone. And it's not something you can solve overnight. We haven't been able to solve it yet. We've worked really hard with it. But at the end of the day, we have to be careful, because at the end of the day, the two things that we have in our community is tourism and ag. And so no matter what we do and what we try to do is putting this in place or this business park in this place, you've got to protect the two things that are core to Page County, ag and tourism. And so by doing that, I think we've accomplished a lot. Our people are the most important. We could all continue to say the same things, But I don't think you're going to get, the Merck's not coming here. Wrangler's not bringing 4 more plants. In fact, you've shut down plants. So I think that's where we got to look outside the box. A call center, something like the VOTEC. The VOTEC's done very, very well, right? We've been able to have kids go to Northern Virginia in electrical, plumbing. How can we get some of those jobs back in this area? But the answer is not, we're going to have the Merck come next Thursday and bring a plant. We're all going to have wonderful jobs. You're either going to drive to the city, have the quality of life that you want here in Page County, or you're going to be able to work from home, and that's been huge. I personally fly out or work from home, so I don't have to drive to Northern Virginia anymore. I think that's where we're going to have to concentrate our efforts is more niche, more stay at home, more jobs for the Valley, because we're not going to solve the problem by bringing the next big thing to Page County. It's not, we don't have the roads, the access, the infrastructure. We've got to concentrate on the people and the things that we have.
Thank you, Mr. Guzy. Mr. Montgomery, Page County hasn't seen any significant growth in some time. What does good growth look like? And how will you protect our scenic beauty, farmland, and water quality with local economic needs?
So I agree with Mr. Guzy on this. You know, the days, I remember growing up when you had Wrangler and different factories around here, and they employed a lot of people. I mean, including myself, I had to leave the county to where I could find a job to raise a family. So it is a need to bring some jobs to the county. We're not going to get those types of jobs, large factories and stuff like that. I think one of the key things is, along with the comprehensive plan, is having an economic plan. So the comprehensive plan, I believe, tells you what we want to be, but how do you get there? Like, how do we bring more money? And to do that, you're going to have to spend a little money to have somebody come in and tell you how to get the most money out of the community, what opportunities they are, kind of bring businesses to the community. You know, we need to be a growth community, but we need to maintain the farms. We need to maintain our identity as Page County. You know, there's some opportunities out there with zoning. A lot of the county, you know, I think it's like 40% of the county is basically owned by the state and the federal government. Out of the other 60%, there's about 1% that's zoned in the county, not the towns, but in the county that is zoned for industrial commercial use. We need to look at those types of opportunities to draw businesses into the community, because a business doesn't want to come here if they don't know if they're going to get the zoning they need to bring the business to the county.
Thank you, Mr. Montgomery. Mr. Baldwin, Page County hasn't seen any significant growth in some time. What does good growth look like, and how will you protect our scenic beauty, farmland, and water quality with local economic needs?
That's a good question. Growth has not happened in Page County for a number of reasons. Mainly the road structures coming in and out of the county has a lot to do with it. Having the right location to put businesses in Page County and having property that would be shovel ready for businesses to want to move in and open up. Plus, it's a lot of drawbacks to bring business to Page County, because then you will jeopardize some of the farmland depending on what industry you bring in and the location. Farmland is very critical to Page County. It draws a lot of people for tourists. And like I say, like Mr. Guzy said, tourists and farmland in Page County go hand in hand. I mean, it's a lot of people that come to Page County just to see the beautification of the valley, and that's where a lot of the Page County's income comes from, is the transient people through the county during tourist season and all summer and into the fall. But as far as big industry to the county, I don't know what we would be able to do to draw an attraction like that would give them a guaranteed, you know, setup in Page County. That would be something the board and planning would have to look at to see what they could do to make it feasible for another business to try to start up in Page County.
Thank you, Mr. Baldwin. Ms. Kile, Page County hasn't seen any significant growth in some time. What does good growth look like, and how will you protect our scenic beauty, farmland, and water quality with local economic needs?
Sure. So good growth is planned and it's intentional. It's not reactionary. It's not whatever the crisis du jour is or whatever is in favor at that time. And I think, you know, at the top of that pinnacle, so to speak, is our comprehensive plan. That is our guiding document. A lot of work goes into that comprehensive plan. A lot of individuals come together, their collective expertise comes together to support and develop that comprehensive plan. So that's where it starts, that's where it begins. The other thing I would like to add is that, ag is not only a financial contributor to the county. At the state level, from year to year we bounce between the 4th and the 6th largest ag producer in the state. And for a county of our size to be able to have that level of output is significant. So ag, at our essence, it's who we are. It goes back generations. So we do need to protect that, because that contributes also to our scenic beauty and our rural character. So we absolutely need to protect that for now and the future.
Thank you, Ms. Kile. Mr. Thomas, Page County hasn't seen any significant growth in some time. What does good growth look like, and how will you protect our scenic beauty, farmland, and water quality with local economic needs?
So good growth is that niche market. Good job opportunities would be light industrial complexes like we already have with Wrangler, with Anderson Door Plant, with the door plant here in Stanley as well, Masonite. Those fit well within our communities. The thought that we're going to bring in a large 1,000-employer job market into Page County, we don't have the job basis here for that kind of employer to come to Page County. It sounds nice, but we just don't have enough people in the county to support that large of an employer. So the ideal employer would be similar to a few of those that we already have in place. Like I said, 100-person or so operation that has light commercial impact on the towns that they would operate in the industrial area. They can't be heavily dependent on truck traffic. As mentioned, we don't have the best road complex in and out of the valley, so it would have to be a small, light industrial manufacturer that's not heavily dependent on large commercial truck volume, nor somebody would be that heavily dependent on a very large population, because we're just not going to attract that kind of job here to the county.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Mr. Berner, Page County hasn't seen any significant growth in some time. What does good growth look like, and how will you protect our scenic beauty, farmland, and water quality with local economic needs?
So basically, like everybody mentioned, some others have mentioned, the comprehensive plan. That is the document that has gotten citizen input, and that's basically the guiding document for how the Board of Supervisors should operate. Within that document is the growth tiers. There's three. The towns constitute the growth tiers. You have primary and secondary growth tiers around each town: LaRue, Stanley, and Shenandoah. The whole intent of that is that those are the areas in which we provide services where commercial businesses should develop. Industrial businesses should develop in that area. If we stick to our plan, we're basically limiting the amount of industrial and commercial development to that area, which is what we need to do to preserve open ag space. It's when we start cutting up and putting different places, different businesses all over the county on prime soils, we're not doing ourselves any good. So I think if, the plan is already in place, we just need to stick to it. There's the possibility of adding additional commercial nodes as long as you can get the infrastructure there. The one thing that the Planning Commission has talked about in the past, in order to figure out its location, then we need to take a look at the soil maps of the county and say, hey, this is the poorest soil in the county, this is great soil. So if we know we have good soil, protect that land, because that's the most productive land when it comes to ag. And if we make a farmer be able to produce a product at a profitable rate, they'll stay farming, they'll provide that landscape that the tourists want to come and look at. But that's the poor performing soil. That's the stuff I think as a community we can afford to give up as open farmland and develop on there, because it's not actually contributing a whole lot to the ag industry.
Thank you, Mr. Berner. Mr. Guzy, you would like to have, let's see, what do we left? 30-second follow-up? You'd like a follow-up?
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
I think one of the things I'd like to follow up with is, you all see me fight for good growth and protecting our natural resources. When the solar wanted to come to Page County, I was the only Board of Supervisor at one time. We heard the citizens, we seen the signs, we had the tractors in the parking lot, we fought, and it was the citizens and me fought a lot to make sure that two things happened. One, we got the planning committee involved, and we had some wonderful people on the planning committee who was able to write an ordinance to protect our farmland. And two, we were able to, on legal services, of able to say no the right way, vote the right way, to get that to not come to Page County. So I think that's the biggest thing is you say, what do you want, or what have you done? You've seen with me, I fought to keep our ag land there, and it would have been a domino effect. We would have lost tons of opportunities in our county. So I think that's something that we certainly wanted to point out.
Thank you, Mr. Guzy. Is there anybody else that would like a 30-second follow-up? We're good? Okay, our number 4 question. And we will start with Mr. Montgomery. As an elected official, what steps would you take to protect public safety? And specifically, we're talking about supporting volunteer fire departments, law enforcement, and addressing local jail overcrowding.
So, law enforcement, fire departments, volunteer rescue squads are all important to this community. With the fire departments and the rescue squads, the majority of the people that do that are volunteers. They take out their time, their money to provide a service for the county. I think there's some opportunities to provide a little more funding for them to help them ease the pain of the financial burden that they have, because fire trucks aren't cheap. About $1 million to buy a fire truck. So they have to do fundraising, fund drive, money, get money from fundraising, golf tournaments, chicken barbecues, door-to-door, mail stuff out. So we can provide some funding for that. I think there's some opportunities to provide some more funding for that. And also with that, it takes about 3 years to get a fire truck now, after talking to some people. So it's not something you can just go pick one off the lot and bring it to the fire department and put it in place. I mean, it takes a while to get that. As far as law enforcement goes, I think the sheriff's department has improved on their budgeting. They did have some positions cut here recently. I'm not sure the reasoning behind that, but they have a lot of employees, and people say, well, there's a lot of deputies, but the courts require so many deputies. The jail requires so many deputies to be there at a time, and very few are actually on the road. You maybe have 3 or 4 deputies on the road at any given time. So, although it may seem a lot, I mean, for the area they have to cover, all the way from Rileyville up to Shenandoah, that's a big area for them to cover with a limited number of people, and they get back here and, a holler somewhere by themselves, backup might be 20 minutes away. So we owe it to them because if you call in a time of need, you want somebody there in a reasonable amount of time. You don't want to have to wait 20 minutes for somebody to show up at your door to help you out. So I think we have some opportunities there to help out the sheriff's department also.
Thank you, Mr. Montgomery. Mr. Baldwin, as an elected official, what steps would you take to protect public safety, specifically support volunteer fire departments, law enforcement, and address local jail overcrowding?
I think supporting the fire departments would be big. I could see them getting a little more money from the counties, because if we had to depend on staffing the fire departments and rescue that we have in the county, that would be a tremendous burden to the county. So I don't have the answer to where the extra funding could come from to help out the volunteer organizations, but I do know that if we have to go away from volunteer to paid positions, that's going to be a tremendous burden on the county. As far as with the sheriff's department, as Mr. Montgomery said, I do know they had 3 positions cut and roughly $400,000 cut from their budget this year. I'm not sure the reasoning on that either. They do have a lot of officers, but we are, I think, one of the only few counties in the state that does have a correctional officer at all the schools. That does eat up a lot of officers right there. And then, like I said, patrol division, I know is struggling some with having retention on that. And like I say, backup is a big issue for patrol division. I think we should have to have some more patrol division officers on duty just for the safety of the public and for the officer itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baldwin. Ms. Kile, as an elected official, what steps would you take to protect public safety, specifically support volunteer fire departments, law enforcement, and address local jail overcrowding?
So first and foremost, our first responders are our brothers and sisters in arms. I mean, it is the critical work that they do day in and day out, 24/7, 365, is immeasurable. And it is also often probably feels like a thankless job. So I feel like we need to support them, and we need to make sure that their voices, that they have a voice, and then that their voices are heard. We do that by, one of the ways that we have helped with volunteerism, or the diminishing volunteerism in the county. The county has taken on the financial role of providing paid fire and EMS. So that is something that we are currently doing. And I think it's always in the forefront of, are we doing enough? Should we do more? What do we need to do? I think we could consider additional strategic funding. And then I think we could also consider something to the effect of incentives for those who volunteer to help encourage additional volunteerism.
Thank you, Ms. Kile. Mr. Thomas, as an elected official, what steps would you take to protect public safety? Specifically, support local volunteer fire departments, law enforcement, and address local jail overcrowding.
Certainly. So first and foremost, I want to thank all the first responders and agencies for the service that they do. The best way I can support you is making sure you get respect. I have to give my oldest son a plug. He is actually a deputy for the Page County Sheriff's Office. So certainly, I back law enforcement without doubt, and I have great respect for our first responders, our rescue squads, and our fire departments. You guys and gals do amazing work. And it starts with respect and treating you as the heroes that you are. Now, secondly, we have to make sure you're funded correctly. As I mentioned earlier, I manage tight budgets and I hold myself accountable to those budgets. I would do the same for each of our departments. It's not a free ride. Just because I love you and respect you doesn't mean it's a free ride. I would actually want to get involved and help look at your budgets and give any advice I can. But the biggest contribution at the Board of Supervisor level we can make is to first give you the respect and show you as the heroes that you are, and then secondly, to make sure you're properly funded, that you have the equipment to do your jobs.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Mr. Berner, as an elected official, what steps would you take to protect public safety? Specifically, support volunteer fire departments, law enforcement, and address local jail overcrowding.
I mean, without a doubt, public safety is number one, whether it's through fire, EMS, rescue squads, anybody, law enforcement. That is you can't cut that. That's basically you have to have that. In terms of the volunteering, I mean, we can do the funding to help with the equipment, those kind of things. But at the end of the day, you need people in those positions in order to operate that equipment. So I agree. I think we need to provide some type of incentive for volunteers, whether it's a tax relief, a stipend, or something of that nature, in order to be able to maintain volunteers through the fire department and things like that. As far as law enforcement, I mean, I know the sheriff, he maintains his budget. I mean, we can always the biggest thing we can do there is just work with the sheriff and say, hey, what are your needs? What can you do? What do you need for retention? And kind of develop a strategic plan to protect law enforcement. So that's kind of what I have to say on that.
Absolutely. I think our number one thing in Page County is to thank the people that are the first responders, right? They're the first ones on the scene of the accident. They have to live with that and do that on a daily basis, and so we have to support them. And I think we have. I think we've done a lot of support. I've constantly had the fire department people come up to me at the fair or at the co-op and thank me. Over the last several years, we've been able to more than double the amounts that we've given. I know back when I first started, it was a very small amount, and now it's an actual enough to try to help them, support them. We've tried to support them with training. We've tried to support them with the 911 and the new radio system that the county put in. We, unfortunately, in the state of Virginia, you have to provide the rescue. If you don't provide, when you call 911 and nobody answers, and nobody shows up, it falls on the county. And so rescue has fallen on the county. We had one town that was responding to less than 2% of the calls. So 98% of the time, there was nobody to respond to the calls. So now we have full-time, 24/7 staff throughout the county. And that's not cheap. If we've been able to keep the budget flat and be able to provide vehicles and people in 24/7 in all the towns, that's been huge. But the biggest thing is, when we dial 911 or we have a tourist on the river that needs help, we have people that can jump in cars and go, and we have the volunteers in the fire department that are there to assist. Sheriff's Department's always something, and you've probably seen me online ask a lot of tough questions about the Sheriff's Department, and you can hear one thing or the other. At one point this year, they had 9 open positions. So if you have 9 open positions, you're not unfunded $400,000. You may have not spent the money, and the money then was taken back, because if you don't fill the positions, you can't use that money for other things. I'm the one that did the recommendation for the body cameras. I thought that was huge, because we had an issue in Shenandoah County where the officer could have been tried for murder. So I think I'm there to support fire, EMS, rescue, our Sheriff's Department, and I think that's something we have to do.
Thank you, Mr. Guzy. Okay, our next question, we're going to start with Mr. Baldwin. How would you ensure that thoughtful planning leads to better development?
I mean, thoughtful planning does lead to better development. I mean, you would just have to get with building, zoning, the planning commission. It would take everybody to do thoughtful planning. I mean, that's exactly, the question kind of explains the answer. There's nothing there short of a joint effort to do that. So basically, I mean, you just have to strategically plan for that to happen. That's all I can really say on that.
Thank you, Mr. Baldwin. Ms. Kile, how would you ensure that thoughtful planning leads to better development?
I think it goes back to the comprehensive plan. Again, that is the guiding document for what we do in the county in terms of growth and development and all of those things. So without that plan, you have the plan, you have to stick to the plan, you go back and you revise the plan and make sure that it's still current and it's still accurate, but you have to have that guiding document.
Thank you, Ms. Kyle. Mr. Thomas, how would you ensure that thoughtful planning leads to better development?
Well, as stated, the Planning Commission and the work that they've done, hats off. I commend them on a job well done. I think we have the basis in place for a good program. I think the key to it now moving forward is to get ahead of changes and try to ensure that whatever comes down the pipe that is addressed in that plan, and that we protect the county, and making sure that the plan is flexible and adaptable. And the biggest strategic advantage we could have is to try to foresee any changes coming, future technology, future development, future growth, whatever that may be, is trying to make sure that it is addressed and is prepared for in that plan. The last thing we would want to do is be in a reactionary position, sort of like we were with the solar farms. We want to make sure that we continue to be addressed before things happen. And I think we're off to a great start. We just got to take advantage of what we have in place and keep it going forward.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Mr. Berner, how would you ensure that thoughtful planning leads to better development?
So I'll say this line, and I've said it to the people in the audience here before, and I'll say it again, and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face, but prior proper planning prevents poor performance. You don't build a house without a plan, so why would you manage a county like that? When I look at the balance of a plan versus development, I think about it from a strategic standpoint where we start with the schools. If we're talking about housing and we want to locate a residential district in Luray, but let's say Luray School is operating at, say, 100, and I don't know the numbers, I'm just throwing it out there as hypothetical. If they want to operate at 110%, if they're operating at 110% capacity, why would we increase housing, and especially affordable housing, where young kids that would be going to that school system would overload that system? We need to look at the capacities of the schools to know where we should place housing development. But in the flip side, if we're operating at a capacity at the schools in a certain given area, maybe that's where we locate commercial and industrial development, so that we're balancing it at our number one budget item. We're balancing that so we don't overload the system, we don't overload our infrastructure, and then once we've filled in all of those places, all those vacant lots with the opportunities, then you can approach from there. But what we can't do is we can't say we're going to put 2 warehouses here, a housing development over here, more housing developments out in the middle of the county. We've got to stop doing that. And that's what has been said here before with the comprehensive plan. We have the growth tiers, we have the plan, we just need to stick to it.
Absolutely, and I reiterate the plan. We open up the plan every so many years for citizens' input, what we can go back and change. For as long as I've been on the board, the citizen input is tourism and ag. So we're not going to open up the plan next Thursday and say that we've changed it and did a 180 and we want big business to come here and we want 18-wheeler trucks on 340 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Because our citizens don't want that, right? Our citizens want the beauty of Page County. You come to Page County because of the resources, the mountains, the rivers, and all that. I think the biggest thing with putting things in place, like Jared said, is working hand in hand with the Planning Commission. And I think I've done that. I certainly reach out to Jared all the time. I have a wonderful representative of District 1 that calls me, and we collaborate on things together. But the data centers are going to be a hot topic, and a lot of people brought up data centers. The best thing we can do is address it before it gets to an issue. And that's what the solar thing hit us blindside, and we jumped on it, and we did the right thing by the citizens. But if we were able to put things in place, if Page County's not open to data centers, which I don't think we have the infrastructure to have, and we don't want, then we need to have the ordinance in place. And I think working with the building and zoning and Josh and planning, we put those things in place ahead of time. It helps our citizens down the road. And we right up front, we're not going to waste the citizens' times and taxpayers fighting or entertaining something for 2 or 3 years, right? There's no reason a data center needs to come here and take up our resources and spend your taxpayer dollars for the next 2 years. If we're not open to it, we need to put the stuff in place now. And I think we've already started that ball rolling. But what's the next thing? There'll be something right behind the solar and data centers, and we've got to be ready for that too.
Thank you, Mr. Guzy. Mr. Montgomery, how would you ensure that thoughtful planning leads to better development?
When any decision making or thoughtful planning, anything you do, I think the biggest thing for an individual to realize is you're probably not the smartest person in the room. That's why you have committees. They're there to provide you the information to make decisions, and you should lean on them. You should lean on every committee member, economic development, tourism, whatever it is, whatever you're dealing with, you have to have the experts in the room so you can make an informed decision. I think there's a lot of room for that. There's a lot of room for, collaborating with those individuals that sometimes, at least from the meetings I've been to, it doesn't seem like it happens a lot of times. So that would be the biggest thing about making decisions with that. Also, another thing with that is it seems like the decision-making process gets drawn out sometimes too long. So you can't be afraid to fail fast. That's a term we use at work, fail fast. You don't want it to cause harm to the community or the citizens of the county. Leave yourself a way out. But you have to make a decision with the information in front of you. It's not always going to be 100%, but don't lock yourself in to where you can't go back and correct that decision.
All right, Ms. Kile, we're starting with, how do you inform yourself on issues that you're unfamiliar with?
I think it goes back to we're never the smartest person in the room, and if we are, we're in the wrong room. And so we have to lean on the people who are the subject matter experts. We have to embrace humility and understand that if it's not something that we are familiar with, we can't be the know-it-all and assume and give the perception that we do know it all. So we have to rely on others to give us the valid information, the data, the supporting evidence, whatever that may be, to make the informed decisions. That it begins with pure heart and understanding that it takes a village.
Thank you, Ms. Kyle. Mr. Thomas, how do you inform yourself on issues that you're unfamiliar with?
Yes, certainly. So I'd have to agree with Ms. Kile. I mean, there's going to be experts in every field. Obviously, I'm not going to be an expert in every field, so my task would be to find those experts, reach out to them, seek their advice, and get that expert advice on whatever topic it is. Now, obviously, there's a whole world of data out there now at our fingertips. The internet is a huge tool. We can research whatever we want to online. The big problem and big challenge is how do you decide what's real, what's fake, and what's actual truth on the internet. So obviously you got to use a filter on that tool, but I think as was stated, the first step you do is find that subject matter expert, reach out to them, and ask for help. And that's certainly not beneath me because, like was stated, I'm not the smartest person in the room usually, so I'm going to find that person that is and ask them for help.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Mr. Berner, how do you inform yourself on issues that you're unfamiliar with?
Short answer, I start with Google and I end with people that actually know what's going on. I'll give you a prime example. Data centers, I don't know too many people that's in the higher level, but I do know people that actually work for the data centers. They wire them up. Actually, a former employee of mine who went through the tech center, became an electrician, now works for a data center out of Northern Virginia and Central Virginia. So I just ask them, I say, hey, what's it like? What's the sound? What's the water usage? Is it hot in there? I like asking those kind of people that, that work day in and day out with those facilities. Those are the ones that know. We can have all the statistical research we want, but, until you can verify that, you can ask people, just having general conversations with people that are in that position. And the thing about it is I don't always know who's in which industry, but if I make a few phone calls, I can probably find somebody that can figure out, hey, this person's in this industry, or this person's in that industry. So it's just one-on-one phone conversations, calls, and saying, hey, what do you see as impact? What do you see as positive and benefits? What are the things as planning commission members, what are things we should be looking for if we're developing conditions for an SUP? What are the areas that we need to focus on to protect citizens? So the short of it is I start with Google to get a basic idea, but I end with the people that are kind of the frontline workers, the administrative people, those types of ministries.
Thank you,
I'm ready.
Mr. Berner. Mr. Guzy, how do you inform yourself on issues that you're unfamiliar with?
Well, Susie can probably attest. The first week you were on the board, I call everybody, right? We have a cell phone, we have Google, we can find anything that we need nowadays, and why reinvent the wheel? So if we're going to talk about a cigarette tax or something else, I pick the phone call up and call some other board of supervisors, whether it's Warren County or Harrisonburg or Greene County. Take a look. You could ask the staff, the amount of stuff that our staff, I ask them, what does Greene County do per capita for the schools? How do they fund the schools? How much do they give? Where are we at? Fire department. So we got good guys at fire departments. We call and ask them. I'm not putting out fires. I need to know how much did you spend on your apparatus and how do you do that? So I think that's the biggest thing that we need to do more of, and we need more people to do that. Not one person needs to be doing that. A lot of people need to be doing that. If you ask the right questions, if you get with the best things that other people have done, I think that's where we need to go. And I think that's the way I've always tried to be a board of supervisor. If you see me in the meetings, and I'm sure you've all watched them either on YouTube or Facebook or on the county's website, I ask questions. I think a lot of times before we go to those meetings, we're very well informed. We have data and packets and everything else, but when you're in those meetings, you got the subject matter expert standing in front of you, you ask a lot of questions. You call your planning committee. And that way you're coming to these meetings very well informed. And I think sometimes the citizens don't see that behind the scenes, right? We'll hear this is the agenda that's on the docket, this is what we want to do, let's vote. Well, we may have had hours and hours in on that before it ever got to a vote. And I think that's something that we got to continue to do, and we need more people to do.
Thank you, Mr. Guzy. Mr. Montgomery, how do you inform yourself on issues that you're unfamiliar with?
Well, I'm not going to try and sound like a broken record. I mean, I said it in my previous answer. It is truly, I'm not the smartest person in the room. I mean, you're going to have the people that know more information than you about any given topic all the time. And you need to reach out to people. If they're not available to you, we need to be looking at, obtaining services and find people that can give us the correct information and what path we should take to making a decision. Google, whatever it is, there's always somebody out there that can give you the correct answer. It's just about going out and finding that person to give you, so you can make an informed decision and not just shoot from the hip and make a decision that's going to negatively impact the community.
Thank you, Mr. Montgomery. Mr. Baldwin, how do you inform yourself on issues that you're unfamiliar with?
Basically the same thing, just basic research, try to get in touch with the right people that specializes in whatever field that you would be trying to obtain the information on, and use common sense on a lot of it as well. But like I say, mainly, if you don't know the answers, you just got to get in touch and contact the right people that do have the correct answers, because like everybody says, we're not all the smartest people sitting here. We don't know everything, so we have to rely on other resources to obtain that information.
Thank you, Mr. Baldwin. Okay, this is going to be our last question this evening, and we're going to start with Mr. Thomas. What would be your vision for Page County in 20 years, and how do you plan to make Page County viable for generations to come?
Well, that's a big question for a minute and a half. I see it a lot like it is today in terms of landscape, in terms of our heritage and our culture. I think as a member of Page County and my peers here in the county, I feel like we all want the same thing in terms of let's keep Page County, for the most part, culturally, aesthetically, heritage-wise, a lot like it is today. Obviously, 20 years is a long time. Things are going to change. Progress makes the world different. Page County will obviously be different, but at its core, I think it needs to stay a lot like it is today. That doesn't mean that we don't have room for improvement. That doesn't mean that we don't have room for growth opportunity. Obviously, we'd like to see jobs, more jobs in the county. Unfortunately, our taxes are pretty high comparatively to a lot of our neighboring counties. We're among the highest in our neighboring counties here. So would want to see that at least managed and stay no worse than it is, relatively speaking, but hopefully we go down comparatively to some of the other counties. But in order for that to happen, there has to be some growth. But at its core, we want to keep our heritage and our culture and our people much like it is today.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Mr. Berner, what would be your vision for Page County in 20 years, and how do you plan to make Page County viable for generations to come?
So, I'm one. I've been here my family's been here for multiple generations, and, basically ag and tourism, ag primarily, the open spaces, farmland, that's my long-term vision. But I think there's opportunities that the county has not capitalized on in the past. The prime example is that we invest a lot of money into the school system. We have a lot of qualified teachers, and we have a lot of powerful youth that are coming out of that school system. The problem is we don't retain them. We send them to other localities where they become lawyers, doctors, electricians. We put in all the hard work, but then we don't get to reap any of the benefits from that. So my vision for Page County is to figure out how to retain those youth so that they can stay here. And it's not the story of, hey, I graduated 20 years ago and now I'm coming back home. This is your home. Stay here and make it that way. Make this place a lot better place. Because you ought to be pretty proud to be from Page County. And just having that power and that knowledge behind you propels the community farther faster.
Thank you, Mr. Berner. Mr. Guzy, what would be your vision for Page County in 20 years, and how do you plan to make Page County viable for generations to come?
Well, I have some good news. It doesn't matter who's elected, re-elected, or elected, your taxes are going to go down because we're one of the last counties around to do the reassessment. So the house has went significantly up over the last 5 years. So we're in the middle of the reassessment. When the reassessment comes out, we'll be able to lower taxes, maintain the same amount that you're spending, but the number will go down as far as the percentage. It'll be in line with the other counties. So that's good news. How Page County will be in the next 20 years, it's the reason I want my kids to, the reason I got involved, the reason I want my kids here. We enjoy the outdoors, we enjoy the woods, we enjoy the hunting, the fishing, we enjoy Page County. So I don't see Page County changing. I don't think we're going to have the next big casino. I don't think we're going to have the next billboards going down 340 every 30 minutes, every 30 seconds. I don't think Page County is going to change. We have to do more with less and with what we are given by the citizens. We are getting an influx of people coming from Northern Virginia. The new houses are certainly worth some money. We have 100-year-old schools, so whoever, the first time I voted 30 years ago, whoever thought it was cheaper to build 2 schools than 1, that wasn't none of us in this room, I hope. But we've got big answers and big questions to come up about our school systems. So we'll have to address that. I know they're currently going through a study to see, but you have, just taking case in point, Shenandoah Elementary, over 100 years school. How much more money are we going to throw at that school? What are we going to do, right? I mean, it's got some serious issues. So I think some big things will come up. I think we'll be able to do with what we got, but I don't foresee Page County changing in the next 20 years. We're here because we love Page County. We love the look, the feel, the people. If you wanted a new Fairfax, then go move to Fairfax.
Thank you, Mr. Guzy. Mr. Montgomery, what would be your vision for Page County in 20 years, and how do you plan to make Page County viable for generations to come?
I mean, everybody wants things to stay the same most of the time. Everybody's like, oh, I wish I could go back 20 years what it was like back then. But it is sustainable growth is what it is. We don't want to come in here with another 5,000 houses or a big factory that's going to impact the landscape and stuff like that. I understand that's not what people want, but you have to have some growth, sustainable growth, because if not, what are we going to be then? Are we going to be Rappahannock County and revert back to where there's nothing, and then you have to buy 15 acres of land to be able to build a house, or 25 acres to build a house? So we need to find a common ground and some balance about what we're bringing into the county. We want to be smart about it. We want to be respectful to our community, the land, and we also want to do what's best, affordable housing, things like that, so we can maintain people in the county. We can have kids not want to just jump ship and move to Harrisonburg or Winchester or Richmond or wherever to get a job. So we have to have a balance there.
Thank you, Mr. Montgomery. Mr. Baldwin, what would be your vision for Page County in 20 years, and how do you plan to make Page County viable for generations to come?
Well, my vision is basically what it is today. I mean, I would like to see the farmland stay as close to what it is now, capitalize on the income that we do have through the tourist industry. I mean, because that is the biggest industry in the county to provide the most income. I don't think we're going to draw no big industry, manufacturing or anything like that to come up with a whole lot of tax revenue for the county. So I just have to capitalize more on what we have, maybe repeal some of the stuff that we've passed in years ago on the farmland, so that we don't have to chop up as much farmland if somebody wants to build a house in the county, rather than having larger acreage for houses in the county. If somebody wanted to build a house in the county, maybe just cut the acreage down so that we don't have to develop as much farmland if somebody wants to build in the county rather than in the town for a single family dwelling. That's one thing that I see that I've heard. Other than that, I don't see Page County changing a lot in 20 years. So that's all I have to offer at the moment.
Thank you, Mr. Baldwin. Ms. Kile.
So I would also say that I love Page County and I love its people. And that's why it is a huge privilege and honor to be able to serve all the citizens of Page County. And the vision is that I would have for now and the future is one where every citizen in Page County feels they have the resources to live a prosperous and fulfilled life, whatever that means to them. It goes to, as elected officials, there are decisions that are going to be easy to make. Times they're not going to be easy to make, and we have to have the courage to be able to make the fair and tough decisions as well.
Thank you, Ms. Kile. Well, that was our final question, so now it's time for closing remarks. So there's 1 minute to speak, and we're going to start with Ms. Kile.
I'll just say again, thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. I appreciate meeting everyone here. I appreciate hearing from citizens. I'd love having the opportunity to serve the citizens of Page County. I love this place. I think if anybody, every one of us on this panel has an overwhelming love for the county and the people here. And so I just, as a take-home message, we all do try to make the best decisions possible. They're not always popular decisions, but it's leading with a pure heart and positive intent is the best we can do some days.
Thank you, Ms. Kile. Mr. Baldwin.
Yes, I'd like to thank y'all for coming out this evening. We appreciate that. And like I say, thank you for your support. Hopefully, we can make a difference if we are elected come November. We would love to be able to sit on the board as a person of the community that's invested in the community through businesses and owning farmland in the county that we would like to see preserved, as well as capitalize on what is allowed actually on farmland in the county. So with that being said, hopefully we can move forward come November and see how things happen.
Thank you, Mr. Baldwin. Mr. Montgomery.
Yeah, so everybody's got a decision to make come November 4th. What direction do you think District 1 in our case needs to go, and the county as a whole? Of course, I want the most people to vote for me, because I can tell you without a doubt, I will be making every decision based off of what is best for the county, not what's best in my own interest, best in my family's interest, best in my friends' interest. It'll be what's best for the county. And I think that's the biggest takeaway I need people to know about me is it will 100% be what's best for every citizen, what is the best for the community, and what's best for Page County as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Montgomery. Mr. Guzy.
Well, thank everybody for coming out. I'm excited that we're able to do this and get word out through the internet and make this recording available so other people can see it. I think the biggest thing is I want more people to get involved. A lot of times we have openings on committees, openings on authorities, openings through people that could help throughout our county, and it's very, very hard to get people to step up and want to serve. So at least tonight we have a bunch of people here before you. I would ask for your vote in November. I think you've seen me serve the community, volunteer in the community, be out in the community, ask the very tough questions over the last 12 years, and I want to continue to do that. I think if we do that, we'll be able to protect Page County and make a place where our kids can grow up. So thanks everybody for coming, and I'm excited about the next 4 years.
Thank you, Mr. Guzy. Mr. Berner.
Yeah, like everybody else said, I just want to thank everybody for coming out. People who know me know that I'm not an I person, I'm a we person. I can't sit up here and tell you that I know everything. I can't sit up here and tell you that I know I always make the best decision. But what I can tell you is I work together with others. I look out of the room and I see multiple faces that have sit on committee meetings. I've had plenty of discussions with. We've tried to develop ideas and solutions. And so I consider myself more of a we person because I can't do this by myself. The only way we're ever going to move forward is if we all work in the same direction. If we're all paddling in different waters and we're trying to go this direction or that direction, nobody's ever going to move forward. I've been asked multiple times here lately, I said, what makes you the best candidate? And my response to that is that's not my call. I can't tell you I'm the best candidate. And the reason I can't because it's not my decision. It's the voters of Page County. They're the ones that have to say who is the person that they trust the most. And so while I ask for your support on November 4th, I also tell everybody, regardless of who you vote for, just get out and vote. Your voice matters. Make sure that your numbers count.
Thank you, Mr. Berner. Mr. Thomas.
Again, my name's Bucky Thomas. I'm your Republican candidate for chairman for the Board of Supervisors. Although I live in District 1 here in Luray, I want to represent all of Page County. That includes Stanley, Shenandoah, and all the rural areas around the county. One of the things that I was hoping we'd get to talk a little bit about tonight was education. One of the things I was going to bring up is I volunteer on the Tech Center Board, Foundation Board, and that's very important to me. I got to give them a plug as well. It is a hugely successful operation here that we're taking these students and growing their technical skills, and they're actually competing I'm looking across here at Duane. We work together on the foundation board, and we've had students from that tech center actually finish first in the state of Virginia in competition and finish 15th in the nation. So it's incredible. We've got a good thing going on there. And I want to share with you my devotion to our children and our education. I think that's very important. Obviously, time's limited here, so we didn't get to talk about everything tonight, but I wanted to make sure that I brought up my devotion and support for the educational system and our youth. What I bring to the table is our fiscal responsibility, fiscal knowledge, and fiscal accountability. I hold myself accountable, and I look to all of you to hold me accountable too. My ears are open, my mind's open, I have strong convictions, but I will listen to you. And if you go to vote for me on November 4th, I will roll up my sleeves and I go to work for you. I do this for you, not for myself. I have nothing to gain out of this. I am truly doing this for the county that I love and you the citizens of Page County. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for participating, and thank you all for coming and for asking questions. I'd like to thank our partners once again, the Farm Bureau of Page County and the Alliance for the Shenandoah Valley. And also thanks to everyone who helped out this evening, the candidates for participating, the partner volunteers for helping out, to everyone who submitted a question, and to Colton Wolf for recording this. Thank you. And don't forget to vote on the 4th.